got a call saying that customer gave us their notice. There was one we'd identified that was a little over 50% of total revenue and contract month to month. It would just been a handshake relationship for a long time. One of those kind of original customers, right? And probably about $500,000 of his own money to make sure that everyone stayed employed, that we maintained our same benefits.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the MSP Pipeline. I'm your host Kyle First, and today I'm joined by Chris Miller, the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at ATB Tech. Chris has helped grow the company since joining in 2018, spent years building sales systems inside the MSP space. And Chris, welcome to the show. Today is going to be a great episode, and I just want to say thank you very much for being here.
I appreciate you having me as well, Kyle.
Of course. Chris, unlike a lot of people in this industry, you didn't come from the tech side. So how did you end up in the MSP world?
Dumb luck, right? So, originally I started in telecom, and then a buddy of mine was in a networking group, and he had me fill in one day, and I met a guy that ran an MSP, knew nothing about what an MSP, didn't know what it stood for. But I knew that once I knew it was IT related, I saw where that industry was going, and so I took a chance. And it wasn't a pretty first 6 months, right? It didn't start well, but ultimately I've been in the industry now, almost 20 years, so it worked out.
Yeah, definitely. And back in around 2008, managed services looked very different than they do today, right? So, what was that opportunity that caught your attention?
Yeah, so it was at the point where it was kind of transitioning. Some had already made that transition to RMM and moved away from the break fix. And this particular org was starting to make that move. They made a large investment in an RMM tool. Well, there was a lot of work that had to be done around that, but then there had to be a strategy on how you sold it. And so I saw that as an opportunity to come in, learn the way the business ran, and really find a way that they could take it to market. Like I said, that first 6 months, it was rough. It had me question why I jumped into this industry, but we figured it out, and we were able to grow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you helped grow an MSP from under $1 million to $4 million in revenue. So what were some of the biggest lessons from that chapter of your career, basically?
So I'm not technical. I came in from a sales standpoint. I think there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, and I think I was probably more leaning on the cockiness side whenever I entered the industry, and I was humbled. I was humbled quickly. But ultimately, what I realized is this was all relationship. It was talking to people, and I mean that's what sales really is at the end of the day, right? Is having conversations, understanding the issues people are experiencing, and trying to help find a solution for them. Once I realized that, it fast tracked the ability for us to grow.
Definitely, and one of the most interesting parts about your story happened after shortly joining ATB. The company lost a client that represented roughly half of its revenue. So how serious was that situation in that time?
Yeah, it was stressful, right? So I mean, there were conversations we had in advance, trying to figure out, who had what amount of market share within from our client base, and there was one we had identified that was a little over 50% of total revenue. And we were having conversations. I had not moved into this market yet. I was still a virtual employee about 3 months in, ready to move here. Had the moving truck coming the next week. Everything was set to go, and I got a call saying that customer gave us their notice, right? No contract, month to month. It would just been a handshake relationship for a long time. One of those kind of original customers, right? And we had some conversations. I said, let's take the weekend. Let's think about it. Let's really think about what the dollars are of that, right? There's costs of the hardware and everything else. So what are the true dollars lost, and how does that impact our team? And so took the weekend. We looked at the numbers, we talked about it, and ultimately I was asked to figure out how do we move this forward. And so it was a combination of sales, renegotiating contracts with vendors, looking at things we were doing for our employees. And there was a subset of our employees that really had no work to do once this client was gone. And culture is important here. And so one of the things our managing partner at the time said was, that's off limits. You cannot cut that. And to his credit, he floated, the company for about 12 months till we were back to where we were before losing that account. So I focused on the revenue side. He threw in, probably about $500,000 of his own money to make sure that everyone stayed employed, that we maintained our same benefits. I couldn't even cut our lunches that we provided for employees because that was too much of a cultural piece. But he was willing to do that, and what I think it did was it built trust with our employees, right, as we went through this really tough time. But we were able to backfill with very healthy prospects, relationships that I had in the market. I was able to bring them to the table to really introduce them to who we were. And then the final piece that really was kind of the cherry on top was that organization that left about 14 months after leaving actually came back. And so that really kickstarted our expansion growth.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, how did that happen? How did you guys win the client back?
So we had helped more on a dev side, really in that relationship. When they made a move, what's interesting and the funny part of the story is they made a move to the MSP that I originally started with back in 2008. And so they made that move. We stayed close, right? We were there to help with some things. There was some of the dev side around their ERP that we really knew better than anybody. And so they started engaging us there. And then from that engagement, we kept conversations going. We kept being a good partner. We made a transition on the managed services side. And then eventually the time came and they said, you know what, I think it's time for us to come back. We thought the grass would be greener. It wasn't. So let's talk. And so we talked and we brought him back. So it very much was maintaining relationship, not letting the emotion of the event get in our way.
Definitely. And you think there's a specific lesson that came from that experience that still impacts the way you operate today?
We had firmer contracts. Everyone was put into industry standard contracts. We focused on not taking for granted any customer, right? I think we were too close in the relationship to where we felt like, oh, well, we're fine. They won't leave. And we missed some of the warning signs. And so we try to do a good job of not letting that occur again.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of, maybe not just MSPs, but a lot of businesses move on after losing a client. But why do you think maybe re-engagement is such an overlooked strategy?
So, there's a lot of data out there that would say that, finding a new client is way more expensive than keeping them existing, right? And I would make the case that looking at that client that already had relationships with us, they knew how we functioned by staying close throughout, the same way whenever you're trying to find a client, right? If they're with another MSP, they're with a competitor, we're in a service industry, right? So we're human. So there's mistakes that happen, right? And so sometimes that from a sales function, you're waiting for that mistake to happen. So the same thing with a new prospect, we were doing that with someone that had left us and just waiting. If something went wrong, we were going to be there, and we were still a known quantity to them.
No, you definitely understand that. Talking sales aspect, one thing you built your reputation around is creating a predictable sales process. Why do you think MSP struggle with sales?
This one can get me in trouble. I think that there's the tech mindset and the sales mindset, and I think they're different sides of the brain, right? I think both ultimately have the same goal, and I think at times we miss that, which is it's about serving clients, it's about relationships, right? Humans in general thrive for relationships. I think the strategy about how you do that is where the rub comes in between the technology guy's mindset and a salesperson's mindset. And so a lot of MSPs are guys that worked internal somewhere, and maybe they were a system admin, or they're in some type of technology role, and said, you know what, I can do this better, right? I can do this on my own. I can do it on my own terms. And they go out and they start their own. But many of them have never had any experience in selling, right? You think about it in general, they're given things to do. It's not like they had to go out and find their company's customers. Now all of a sudden they're put in a sales role, and they've got no process. They have no understanding of okay, what's an objection? How do I overcome objections? There's no training to that. What they do know is the tech. But at the end of the day, you can get referrals and you can go that route, but you can only grow so much doing that. And when a technologist starts talking technology, they get into the acronyms, they get into the geek speak, right? And most business owners aren't technology people, right? They're outsourcing because they don't want to manage the technology. They want to build their widgets. They want to do whatever they're doing. They need someone who can translate it for them and really just help them find outcomes. And though a technology leader can do that, sometimes it gets lost in translation. And so I think that's where I've found success in sales, is being able to have real business conversations with other business leaders, be able to understand enough of the technology by sitting down with really smart, techs that have worked alongside of me, and really understanding whatever all these magic boxes do and how they function and how they go together, to be able to articulate in a way that your average business owner can understand, right? Because at the end, they've got pain and they want it to be fixed. And it's not even necessarily that they want it fixed by the cheapest. They just want it fixed, right? So you can go to market and not be the cheapest, to really solve those solutions, and you build a reputation over time, and you build a company over time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you use the Sandler methodology for, MSP owners who aren't familiar with it. What makes it effective?
So there's a number of different methodologies out there from sales. I think Sandler is an easy one for organizations to understand. I think it's easy for salespeople to understand. Really what it does is it gives you, and again, this is where I would say any process can work. We've settled on it. I found that Sandler, if I took it word for word, I would hate it. Like if I try to do it exactly how Sandler would say to do it, I find it's not my sales style. However, whenever I can take the pieces and then I can start to put it into my own language, my own words, the way I speak, the way I handle things, but I still have a consistent process of do this, set up an upfront contract. Hey, here's what we're going to talk about today. Here's your responsibility. Here's my responsibility. We agreed to an hour of time. Is that still good? Great. And at the end of this meeting, we'll agree on next steps. Are you good with that? Yeah, I'm good. Okay, so I've got their agreement, and then I move through the process. I understand. I'm going to ask about pain. I'm going to go deep on that. I'm going to understand budget. I'm going to understand timeline. I'm going to understand who makes the decisions. Now I've got something. So now I can be a consultant and I can guide them through a process. And that's why Sandler works.
That's great. And, everyone has their own thing, but, I recall you don't heavily rely on SDR teams or outsourced lead generation. And is there any specific reason why?
Well, I mean, this may not get you any lead gen sponsors, but I find it to be a little bit of hocus pocus, right? Like, I mean, really what they're doing is that they're taking a shotgun approach and they're just trying to hit everything, right? So anyone can download from, Uplead or from LinkedIn or from whatever. They can download 10,000 emails and they can shoot out an email campaign. It's very generic, and you're going to get lucky. Right. As the saying is, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. Someone's going to find something from that and go, oh, this was a success. And I would say it can be in that moment, but it's not consistent. And what I want is consistency. I want to know that we've got a repeatable way of getting business, so that I'm not worried that, hey, I got 3 clients this month and now I'm going to sit and I'm going to wait for 2 years before I find 3 more. And so by having a process, by, again, the SDR piece of it is, you can get a lot of information gathering, and that's fine. But I believe in the relationship side of this. That's why I'm in this, right? We talked prior, like, technology isn't sexy to me. Like for me, it's about getting to know people, getting to build the relationship. And so we focus on, hyper-focused group of accounts. Each of my reps have 50 at any given time. They focus on those. We go deep with them. We meet them where they are. We try to show up at the events that they're at. And over time, we invite them to some high-end events that we put on where we get to know them, they get to know our team. And, one of the most recent ones we brought on, I mean, we worked on that account for 8 years. We're okay with the long game here. This isn't about just having to get every logo under the sun. We want very specific customers.
Yeah, of course. And that's a very powerful approach to all business. I love that because relationships are key for everything. But, wondering a little about your pipeline, right? Like if an MSP owner came to you tomorrow, said, my pipeline is empty, what would the first thing you would look at?
I would look at the existing accounts, right? I would look at what they're selling into those accounts. I would look at where the white space was, right? Those gaps. Does every customer have every product or service that they offer? And if not, why? Are you not doing regular QBRs? You're not having real conversations, right? So that's the initial phase of just like, there's probably a 20, 30, 40% uplift in revenue coming in just by looking at your existing client base, right? Implementing, referrals and asking for referrals within your QBRs as a standard practice, right? You're going to get introduced. I'm going to look at their networks. I'm going to utilize LinkedIn. I'm going to see business owners are connected to other business owners, right? So I'm going to look at that and I'm going to say, who else are they connected to? And then work with them to say, you like what we do for you, introduce me to them, right? Like, that's the low hanging fruit in my opinion. But you also need to start looking at building out a process and being intentional in what prospecting means, right? So are you networking with the right people? Are you getting out there? Are people seeing you? Or are you so stuck in the business that you never get out? You're just hopeful someone finds your website. I don't believe hope is a strategy, right? And in sales, it definitely is not. And so, but too many MSPs focus on, I hope this might happen. People like me, they'll know, they'll reach out, but do they? Right? And do you have something to really drive them to continually come back?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like a lot of MSPs also hire a lot of salespeople, right? But I feel like that's where MSPs get stuck. They hire a salesperson, they expect immediate results. What would you think are realistic expectations?
So I think the industry has different ideas on when you should hire a salesperson. A lot of peer groups I've heard talk about, about that $5 million mark is when you might want to think about, is the time that you're ready because you're mature in your service delivery, and you're ready at that point. It should be owner led prior to that. I've been in orgs where, again, under $1 million came in, and I was a sales rep. Not saying that was the right plan. It worked. I think I had the right mentality along with a support from the org. Whenever I came in here, and we were about 2 million, right? And so we were still way under that, but we knew that we wanted to grow, and I had a process. I had a maturity in understanding this industry, and I think that's what led and allowed us to move forward in it.
Not definitely understand that.
I don't think I fully answered your question though.
It's okay. I mean, because what I'm trying to get at is, what do you think at the end of the day, though? What makes
time frame?
Yeah. Time frame. How does that?
And again, this is why I think the really small MSPs struggle with hiring the sales guy. And that's because I would say you need to plan on that first deal not happening for the first 12 months. And most MSPs do not plan on that investment, and they don't give their salesperson a long enough runway. You may have, again, that shotgun approach, low-hanging fruit. You might find something. So there's nothing saying they won't find anything in that first year. But I think you have to have a realistic expectation, both for you as a business owner and for your sales individual. Here's what you can and can't go after, right? For a technology mindset to manage a sales mindset is extremely difficult, right? Because sales are like, I just want revenue. great. I found this thing, let's do it. And all of a sudden, if you haven't set the expectation and they bring that in, you go, oh man, this is going to destroy my company. I can't take this on. I don't want this type of business. I don't want to work with lawyers, or I don't want to work with doctors. And you haven't set that. Well, now you're in a contentious relationship internally where that the sales rep's like, well, I did everything you asked, and you're going, why can't he get me what I want? You got to understand how salespeople function and work. And you have to be able to give the time to support them in understanding a very complex business, which is an MSP.
Definitely. And like, what do you think, what traits, separate great salespeople from average ones?
Curiosity. I'm not that like type A sales, like in your face, rah, rah, like, and I don't think you have to be. Right. And I think there's some, it works and that opens doors, and maybe they are a great door opener, but are they a great closer? So someone that follows through, I look for things, and I'm not saying everyone has to have, a college degree, but to me, it shows someone that went in, started something, and then completed it. Right. And so whenever I look at young salespeople, I look for, it doesn't have to be a degree, but something along those lines that shows me they saw something to completion. Right. They've got to have a yearning to learn something, because they're going to learn something new every day in this industry. And it's not just a regurgitation. Because the first time you go into a sales call and you regurgitate, hey, what's your ISP? And an owner, because they're not technology people, look at you and go, what's an ISP? And they go, an ISP. And they can't explain what that is. You've lost all credibility.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So there's got to be honesty in the process. There's got to be humbleness. There's a book I make all my salespeople read called Getting Naked by Patrick Lencioni. And the title obviously is intriguing, but it's a parable. And really what it talks about is being okay saying I don't know, but then being able to follow through with an answer back within a stated timeline. And so even sometimes when you know the answer, you want to say, I don't know, because there's a deeper understanding of what might be going on. So you want to ask more questions. And I think that makes successful salespeople. They're naturally inquisitive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, but I mean, like ATB, you guys have some ambitious growth plans, right? Well, I know you're trying to get to close to 100 million, but like, what does the road look like to 100 million?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've looked both we're in a single market now. We've been all organic growth. We've 5x'd since I've come in, looking to 10x again from here. As we do that, right, I know we're in St. Louis, right? There's only so much market you can capture in St. Louis alone in the business that we're in, and in the ICP, or the ideal client profile that we're going after. So we're going to have to look outside St. Louis, right? So that's going to be new market expansion. And I would see probably over the next few years, 2 to 3 markets that we'll be in. And even organically, like, you can push salespeople so far, but I have a hard time believing that we'll be able to do 3, maybe 4x, maybe 5x organically in the time frame that I want. So it's going to require some acquisition as well. And so that'll be part of our new market strategy. We're currently looking at potential acquisitions. We'll continue to look at that. Looking for strong MSPs in strong markets, strong reputations. Ones that really care about their customer base.
No, I definitely understand that. That's good that you say that, because acquisitions are important, but what specifically are you looking in an acquisition? Are you looking for someone that focuses on the same industry that you guys focus on as well?
Yes, and I would say, so finding an exact one-to-one replica, right, is going to be impossible.
Not easy. Not easy.
I think there's a one-to-one of, like, the initial couple I would see probably more in line with, as close to what we do, maybe a slightly different size of clientele in a market that we want to be in to get that footprint, right? If they've got a good reputation, they've got a good brand, we can build around that within a market. But then that helps to an extent, right? And then there's the point of having to integrate everything, both from a tool set and from a client standpoint. From there, then we look at what are the ancillary products? What are those nice add-ons of things that maybe we don't do? And that will be part of the strategy. It's not just people, really strong people within those orgs. That's part of why you buy a company. But it's also about like, what can they bring that maybe we don't have as much of a strength in. When you look at these big platforms that are building in the MSP space right now, that's what they're doing. I mean, they're saying, okay, we're not really good at Microsoft. Let's go find a company really good at Microsoft and pull them in. We don't do wiring. Let's go get a wiring company. Oh, we don't do, conference room technology. Let's go find a conference room technology. And as we would grow towards that 100 million, I see more of those acquisitions being part of it.
Yeah, that's great. I love to hear that. And like, what do you think a great MSP looks like 5 years from now?
5 years is a long time in this industry.
It's a long time in this industry.
Yeah, it's, AI has a huge impact right now. I think most businesses, and I would say even most MSPs right now are underestimating the potential of what AI can do within the business. I see, and not everything is solved with AI, but I do see the ability from a scale standpoint, things with automation and even some basic functions of what we do as MSPs being, help desk. I see AI taking a strong percent of those types of tasks. But what I think that does is it gives us an opportunity, and that's where I see it. I see the opportunity. It allows for us to upskill our existing staff and really be more of the thought leaders in the industry, really focusing on the strategy, helping them prepare for, be it cyber, be it regulations like CMMC within a manufacturing space, and get to spend more time in that area. And really be the brains of the IT, and not just having to, hey, my printer's broke, can you fix this? Or, hey, I forgot my password. Like, we can do that with humans at a help desk level. But the reality is, AI is already proven to do it more consistently from an experience standpoint with a higher success rate. So why not look at utilizing that for some of the noise, the same way orgs that hire MSPs, they don't want to be in the tech business. They're going, we could do it. Yeah, we can hire and we can manage that, but do we want to, or do we want to build our widgets? Do we want to build what we're doing? As MSPs, we're going to look at it the same way and say, okay, this is fine and we can help, but if we can automate it, why not automate that and then really use our skill set to better help businesses get the outcomes they want?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're a sales guy. I mean, do you think AI is going to make sales easier or harder for you?
There's a lot of noise in it right now. You think about like the SDR comment earlier, right? These orgs that can spin up very quickly to do this stuff, right? But what are they doing? They're relying on AI to build it. At some point, are we just all exchanging emails or nothing but AI talking to AI? Like,
crazy.
Sales has to be, there's still a human nature to it. And so I think some of those tasks, absolutely AI takes on, but I do think that we're in a multi-generational workforce. So depending on the generation, it's more important than others, but people still want to interact with other people. And so the really good salespeople that can have conversations, that can come in and can help solve problems and really listen and try to understand what the concern or what the need is. Those are that's going to be the case. I don't see that going away with AI.
Yeah, fair enough. And do you think there might be a sales methodology MSP owners need to stop believing in?
No, I think MSP owners just need to have a methodology. I think that's the challenge is, I don't care if it's Medic or if it's Sandler or if it's one of the other, 50 out there. Just like having a process of how you handle a customer's ticket, you should have a process of how sales happens. And that's all the methodology does, is it helps be your guide to make sure that you're doing all the steps along the way.
Definitely. What do you think is more important, sales or marketing?
I would say definitely sales. Marketing's top of the funnel, right? Marketing is you want to have brand awareness. You want to have someone that, we've got our sign on the side of the building. People, drive by it every single day, and it starts to give, I don't know, a little bit of just understanding that, like, we're here. Hey, they're real.
Yeah.
They're a real company. People don't realize that we've got 10,000 square feet of a 100,000 square foot building. We just happen to, from a sales standpoint, be able to negotiate a sign on the side of the building. And that's part of our lease, and we're like, but it gives visibility. We sponsor a couple pro sporting events, and as part of that, people see our name and our brand, and they associate. And so, from a marketing standpoint, I believe on upping like our brand, right? And so we do that by partnering with brands that have a bigger, better, more breadth of a name than what we do. And so we've been successful with that. But that's the entry point. That's what gets someone to go, okay, ATB is real. And maybe in a conversation, they go, yeah, I saw that sign, and it gives validity. Yeah. But it's sales that's really going to open that door. Like we don't just market on hope. Hey, let's just sit here and wait with a chat until someone hits our website and asks a question about sales. Like, we've got to be more proactive to it. Marketing to me at times can be very reactive.
Definitely. I mean, like, what's one thing every MSP owner should start doing immediately to improve their pipeline?
Finding quality networking events, and getting out there, right? So I think every MSP owner, even if they don't have sales, they need to give themselves their own KPI around getting out. Get out there, interact with other business owners, right? You're going to find work through that, and be it a peer group like a Vistage, or if you don't want to invest those dollars, I mean, hell, just get in the cadence of going to a chamber event. It all depends. Like you'll know where you need to be based on the type and size of clients you're going after. We don't find a lot from the chamber. But we're also going after 75 to 250 employee organizations. But the chamber, there's plenty of 5, 10, 15, 20 person offices that you could get some deals from that. But you have to be out there. If you're not out there, and then ask to be part of like their speaking, if they've got a speaker series, or they've got something where you can give a little bit, right? Like the go-giver idea of, where can I give something first? And so be able to give, a talk on whatever your specialty is, or cybersecurity, and don't think that it's too simplistic of a topic. Because what I find is so many people, you work in your firm every single day, and you're constantly dealing with cyber, and you're dealing with all this, but then you go out to people and you talk to them about what a password manager is, and it's very simplistic, but most of them are like, I had no idea. Yeah. And so don't be afraid that you're going to, the topic is not going to be relevant. I went to the YMCA, and I did this just more as supporting the community, but it was a bunch of individuals that were part of their aging gracefully. They're 60 plus, and I talked to them about AIs and the dangers of AIs and that topic. I had so many questions come out of these individuals that are like, oh my God. And some of them were very basic about their cell phone and like, can this happen? But they appreciated it. And it was something that it was very simplistic to what we do. But for them, it was potentially stop them from being scammed or what have you. So I think it's well worth it to get your name out there that way.
Yeah, definitely. I think networking events are great. You meet great people as well. You never know when you show up to a networking event who you might meet. So, but what we're getting to is the final question that we normally ask everyone. If you could sit down with the version of yourself just entering the MSP industry, what advice would you give yourself?
It's a great question. Like I said, I think I came in, I underestimated this industry. but I also came in a little bit arrogant too. Like I had success in sales before coming in. And so I think I would tell myself to relax, sit back, like be humble, don't let ego get in the way, and really ask a lot of questions to get to know this industry, because there's a lot that could be learned. And I think I waited 6 months, 12 months before really spending that time with the technical side to understand how things worked. And I think that was the difference. I think that's once I did that and I understood that it wasn't just a concept I was selling. It was there were outcomes to this, and the technical understanding of how pieces move and how they work together helped me kind of put this whole puzzle together. And then from there, throughout my career, I've been able to now find that white space or even that green space, right? That space that like, okay, we're doing this and this, but how are, asking questions inquisitively to a business owner and saying, what are you guys seeing? What's this? What else are you thinking you need? We've actually found a lot of our new products and services from asking those questions. Because if one customer has it and has that need, chances are every other customer or the majority of them do. And so we're able to go to market with new ideas that are really coming out of conversations. And so I would say, don't let the ego get in the way, and be able to ask really good questions.
Hey, love that. I love that. Questions are important, my man. But listen, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today, Chris. I'm excited to see what you guys are going to hopefully get to that 100 million. And let me know if you do. That'd be great. But
Thanks,
you once
Kyle.
again for being here today, man. And I'm looking forward to watching this again.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.